Welcome to episode 217 of the No Clue Podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Tyler.
Mike.
And we're back. Two games into the finals. Exciting two games. They're both split. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you probably at least know what's going on. Um, we're gonna dive right into the game recaps. So game one. Uh Nuggets take game one at home. What do you think about this first game?
Um, Denver showed absolutely no sign of rust whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
They came out, I mean, their energy was crazy. They were feeding off the crowd. They looked like a team that was off for a long time.
Mm-hmm. But
And
in a
they
good
just
way.
came in with more energy at like every position.
Yeah, they did. They did.
And by the time Miami even really woke up, it was kind of like you're going into halftime down seven. Like you didn't really play poorly. You're going into halftime, you're getting blown out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was just too much Denver.
Yeah, and I thought the shot distribution for Miami was kind of weird. Um, I feel like, Strus 0 for 10 was really bad. Caleb Martin 1 for 7. Jimmy 6 for 14. Not not horrible. Bam 13 for 25. It's a lot of shots for Bam, but not decent game for him. While on Denver, I mean, Jokic was 8 for 12. Gordon was 7 for 10. Very efficient games for all of them. And Murray taking 22 shots. That's kind of what you want if you're Denver. You want Murray to be aggressive. And he's looked great in both games. But that first game, I think that defensively, they were all over the place. We mentioned before that game, Michael Porter Jr., this was the game where his X factor really kicked in because he was rebounding great, had 13 rebounds in this game. He had 2 blocks in this game. He was like first probably the first half, he was all over the place. Like you notice him on every single play.
Yeah, I thought the role players in general for Denver kind of set the tone.
They
I
did.
mean,
Absolutely.
Gordon came out with all those post ups, those drop steps.
Yeah.
Like you said, Porter, like he didn't come out shooting well, but he was making hustle plays. He was rebounding.
Yeah.
Like all things we know he could do.
Yep. And the shots
And
that
then
he
of
did make were big shots.
oh yeah.
Yep.
And then Bruce Brown, of course, came in and was just going crazy as usual.
Yep.
You know, when the team was cold, he was kind of the one guy that heated up. So
Hmm.
it was just a perfect blend for Denver.
It was. Why do you think that Miami didn't really adjust to the Aaron Gordon thing? Because like first half, Gordon, like you mentioned with the post ups on Vincent, they were exploiting every switch, letting Gordon exploit every switch, every mismatch. And the Heat kind of just like let it go for the whole game and then try to just like outscore it for some reason.
Yeah, early on, I thought they were too focused on like rotating on Jokic correctly.
Hmm.
You know, so like it often happened that to make sure Jokic stays covered, we gotta like switch, and that's when Gordon was feasting.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree.
it's weird with Denver too, because like they're not really running things to make you switch,
Hmm.
but a lot of their natural plays just like it's just so tough to stop that you have to give up something.
Yeah, and they're constantly moving. They're setting a lot of off ball screens, which like rarely teams do now. Like
Yeah.
they're setting off ball screens for cuts and for post ups when most teams usually just set off ball screens for threes. And like they're
And
setting off ball screens for a lot of different actions.
now that I think about it, you remember after that first quarter, they interview Gabe Vincent
Hmm.
and they ask him like, you know, why is Denver so tough to stop? And he says literally like they're all cutting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Boston didn't cut, we know that.
Right.
New York, like with Brunson kind of running the show, only one or two guys cut,
Yeah.
you know, so they really hadn't seen this play style that much.
Right. And I mean, even with New York, when they do cut, they're just like too small to really worry about it.
Yeah, I
And
mean
then
Cleveland is just there was no cutting to be found in Cleveland.
right, and then Milwaukee, they just stay outside most of the time. They leave the paint open for Giannis. So it is a different look for Miami, especially since Miami kind of runs that at times, not as much. But I think Miami's offense is very similar to Denver's offense in some ways where, you got the big who has the ball, holds the ball longer than anyone else in the possession. Bam holds the ball way longer than
Yeah,
anyone else on Miami ever does. And then the actions are kind of all around Bam to see what Bam sees. And even though Jokic is a better playmaker, um, it's something that they should be used to in their own uh their own version of it. But it was interesting. Interesting first game for Miami. Um Anything else on the first game?
I wish Jimmy had kind of set the tone more.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bam took a lot of shots, and I would have been fine even if he didn't shoot well. I thought a lot of the shots he was just being aggressive. Jokic was giving him a lot of room,
Yeah.
and a lot of the other guys were being defended well. So like you have to take what you could get.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy had a lot of those opportunities, and he was just kind of swinging the ball.
Yeah, he was. He wasn't nearly as aggressive as
Yeah,
you would think in a close game.
yeah,
Relatively close game. Yeah. I think with when Bam takes a lot of shots, Miami has to find a way to still be a threat on the boards. Because when in the at least in the first game, because no Love, they didn't play Love at all the first game. Um, Highsmith kind of came later. He's a pretty aggressive rebounder, even though he doesn't play that much. But Bam was taking shots, and it was just a one shot play, which when Miami usually is a two or three shot kind of team. Like when Martin or Strus takes shots, there's Bam, there's Jimmy, Lowry, Martin all get in on offensive rebounds. But when Bam takes his shots, they just have a hard time getting to him, and maybe because they're not really ready for him. But um, I think they have to find that balance if they want to stay in the series overall. If they want Bam to keep being aggressive, which he has to be, he has to challenge Jokic defensively
yeah, man.
at times.
It's tough. It's gonna be tough for them to maintain that balance.
It is. It is. Um, okay, let's get to game two, which uh was a really good game. First half was a really good game. I felt like
Yes.
it was pretty back and forth. It had a few lead changes. Um, Jokic was very aggressive in this game. Very aggressive, scoring wise. How'd you feel about this game?
Um, Miami shocked me with this performance, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
I
shock.
Let me kind of paint the picture coming in. So I was starting to think like, man, the way Denver plays at home, like Miami's in serious trouble.
Uh-huh.
Where they do so many things that you can't really adjust to, you can't really like game plan for. But game two, they came out and they executed offensively better,
Mm-hmm. They
which
did.
was which I really didn't expect. I was starting to think the only way you could beat Denver at home is like what I mean they didn't do it at home, but what Devin Booker did, which was just go crazy efficient.
Right.
But Miami just came out and they played to their strengths so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that really shocked me, man. What'd you see in this one?
It was a big difference from the shooters in this one. First game for the shooters, I believe Robinson, I don't know if I said it. I think he was 1 for 6. Strus was 0 for 10. In this game, second game, Strus 4 for 10, and Duncan was 4 for 5. And it's just field goals, not just threes. But they just came in and were really, really aggressive. Strus was getting a lot of looks. Um, in the first game, he really didn't get a lot of easy looks, and the ones he did, he just kind of missed. This game, they started out early with Strus getting some easy looks. I think Love being in there, a big body in there, with Gordon was huge, a huge adjustment. I really wanted them to make the adjustment at halftime of the first game, but in this game he comes out with Love starting, and they look fantastic, man. I mean, to your point, Love is also a really good passer, so I think the ball movement was better. I think the rebounding was better. They just looked a lot better overall in this game. And still,
Yeah.
Jimmy wasn't really that aggressive. He was
And
aggressive in spurts.
and Denver, I think, made the mistake Miami made in the first game, where they were so focused on Jokic, so focused on Murray that you're not noticing that Aaron Gordon is posting up Gabe Vincent over and over.
Hmm.
Michael Porter is pulling up on Strus, on Rob, on these guys who are too small for him.
Hmm.
In this game, I think it was flipped. I think
Mm.
Denver was so focused on containing Jimmy Butler, to your point, who wasn't really being aggressive,
Hmm.
that it left Strus wide open.
Wide open.
I mean, the announcers are getting mad because it was the same, like, set the screen, but don't really set it, and then, curl off of it real quick. That caught Denver sleeping like 4 different times.
It did.
And,
It
like,
did.
again, it's the focus is all on Jimmy, which I'm not mad at. But Jimmy's
Hmm.
behind the 3-point line, not even being aggressive.
Robinson had like 7 straight points at one point just from doing that.
In the
Just from doing
fourth
the shadow screen.
quarter,
Yeah.
I thought
Yep.
they would learn from Strus doing it in the first quarter. In the fourth quarter, like the personnel just changed.
Hmm.
And it was a credit to Robinson, who did kind of show like he was willing to dribble. He was willing to like not just take shots.
Hmm.
But the communication from Denver was so bad.
Yeah, it was. And another thing that Denver, as far as Malone, and I think just overall, I didn't see enough. There was times when Jokic was out that the team was playing really, really well. I mean, really well. Christian Brown came in and played fantastic. Jeff Green, he didn't play that much, but you notice him
Braun,
out there on
same
the
thing.
court. Yeah,
Braun played
and
well, but barely.
yeah. Um, and there was a long time without Jamal Murray there. I think it was the fourth quarter or into the third. Murray was out for a long time while Miami was going on a run. And I kept wondering like every possession, yo, when's Murray coming back in? Yo, where is Murray at? And I know they were going to Jokic and Jokic was scoring well, but really no one else was playing well for Denver at that time when Miami was really on that run in the fourth quarter. And Murray didn't come back in until like maybe 5 minutes in the fourth quarter or 6 or 7 minutes in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter. And I just felt like that was a long time for really your best one-on-one scorer on your team to be out of the game while the other team was going on a run. Um, so I think it was just some weird coaching decisions from the Denver side. I felt like in this game, um,
Yeah.
I didn't think they went with stuff that was working. Michael Porter Jr. really didn't play well at all. He
No.
still rebounded decent, but his defense was
Soft,
bad.
man. Even like he rebounds again a lot of times just because he's tall.
Hmm. Yeah,
First
he
game
doesn't
he
really
was
put a body.
snatching, first game he was going up there snatching it, look immediately turning looking for a good outlet.
Hmm.
This game he was just kind of, I don't know, he was just out of it, seemed like.
Yeah, I would tell Michael Porter Jr. if you don't get at least one over the back foul in every game,
Yes.
you're not playing hard enough. Like
Yes, absolutely.
I want you taking someone out for a rebound every time down court. Or else I mean seriously, he doesn't play hard unless he really crashes the boards with uh aggression. Um Bruce Brown is another one. He played really good. I didn't think he was out there long enough. Also, even though he played 27 minutes, still didn't feel long enough.
Yeah.
So some of those things for Denver. What I think that's really cool about this finals is that we're seeing two teams that kind of change what the stigma of the NBA is with the super team thing, where these teams value their depth way more than their starting five. Right?
Yes.
Like these teams have a depth of players that really contribute, play hard, probably could start on other teams, or at least get a lot of minutes on other teams. Um, and they just go with more guys, and it works better. And we talked about this way really early in the season with the Clippers, the Bulls, um, the Celtics. These teams that have a lot of really good players, but yeah, they have a lot of really good players. But then you get to like seven or your eighth and ninth man, and yeah, they're good, but they're kind of unplayable on this team because they don't really have a role. They have a lot of players that don't really know what they're supposed to be doing out there. I remember I was talking about the Clippers and like, yeah, they have Covington on the bench who has started a lot of his career, but
in playoff
they,
games.
yeah, and then when they put him in, he has no idea what he's supposed to be doing. And that's no disrespect to Covington because I mean he's a good player, but it's that situation. But here, both these teams, I think their depth is so much better because the guys who come in have a specific role and they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing when they come
Yeah.
out on the court. I mean,
Eh,
even down to Haywood Highsmith, he comes in and does exactly what you asked him to do.
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
I think it's the teams are different. Like Denver is more of find a core group and like and they've had good core groups with Jokic and Murray in the past,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
like the chemistry wasn't perfect. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like even when they was good, I thought the guy in Orlando, Gary
Gary
Harris,
Harris.
he
Yeah.
was a good fit. Didn't really seem like a perfect fit, but then
Right.
Millsap was like a disgusting fit, and he was there for a long time.
Long time. Yeah.
And, and Gary Harris towards the end like fit worse than before.
Yeah.
Monty Morris, his last like when Murray's healthy, Monty Morris didn't really fit well.
Right.
But this
Yeah.
group of 7, 8 guys, with Braun being like the eighth guy,
Hmm.
like is a flawless chemistry.
It is because those guys really they don't play out of their game at all. Like
Never.
the other guys you just mentioned, Morris, Morris drives a little more often than he should. Millsap takes way too many shots. I mean, he did when
Yes.
he was on Denver. I'm not talking about now, but when he was on Denver, it was like, yo, why are you taking so many jump shots? Um, and Gary Harris, I mean, he wanted to be the leading scorer on the team, and it just wasn't the right team for him to do that. And I mean, he's a good scorer for a complimentary player, but you're right, it just wasn't the right team. And I think if all the guys you named, he could have worked, but it just it took away from someone else. Every time he played good, someone else had to play
Yes.
bad, and that's not really what you want on your team. Another one, I mean, even Jeremy Grant was a good fit for them, and that's because when he was more of a complimentary player himself, he came out there and all he did was catch lobs, maybe the backdoor cuts. That was his thing. I mean, that's all he did, and he was great at it. Absolutely
Yeah.
great. But once he blossomed and kind of had more tools to his game, he wasn't gonna work there. Like Jeremy Grant today wouldn't work there.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of teams maybe will see these finals and say, man, maybe we just need some guys who are complementary, who can stick to a role on how we play and just stay in that, and it would work. Because the Lakers are another team. Yeah, they have a lot of good players, but I can name 5 guys that come in the game and look like they have no idea what they're supposed to do. And you
Yeah.
could
I mean,
argue they're deeper than both these teams.
yeah, man. A lot of these, again, a lot of the success here, to me, is coaching. Also, like the fact
It
that
is, yeah.
these two guys have been in their position for a long time.
Hmm.
And Malone is not nowhere near as good of a coach as Spolstra. But
Hmm.
again, Malone is very, very self-aware about the team. He's very in tune with who Jokic is as a player, who Murray is, who
Yeah.
like now who these other guys are, and it shows. It shows because they're
So,
always playing to everybody's strengths. Everybody's involved, and every other team we talk about, even when the cast is there, even when the talent is there, like everybody's not involved.
right. Right.
And Denver, again, I think Denver is a very um what's the word? I guess a blueprint you could copy, a blueprint you could follow.
I agree. Yeah.
Now,
Uh,
Miami is another story entirely, in my opinion.
I'll say this before you talk about Miami. I think the only thing about Denver is you won't find the unselfishness that those guys have. And to me, Jokic may be one of the less unselfish guys on the team. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like Porter Jr. is at the top of, you know, I I call him
Ball
selfish, but
hog.
in basketball terms, he's selfish. And I'm not saying he's a selfish person, but
Yeah.
on the basketball court, he wants to shoot, and that's just his game. But Jamal Murray, anyone else like Jamal Murray, there's no way they go a game and only take 15 shots. Zero chance. Because he's someone who, I mean, me and you both talk about him enough, but we know he's capable of leading the league in scoring. If he really, really
Yes.
wanted to, he
Yes.
could average as much as anyone in this league. So
He makes it look easy.
he makes it look easy. So to have someone that talented being okay with only taking 15 shots a game, or I don't know how many, I don't know his shots per game, but so far, I mean, his last game he took 15 shots. That would not happen if I was Kyrie in that situation. If
Yeah.
that was Steph or a lot of these
And
other guys that. Go ahead. Yeah,
I think him and Jokic, that's why they're so flawless as a duo, because either one of them could lead the team.
yeah, they could.
Like the Phoenix, it was more Jokic. Every other series, it's been more Murray. And
Hmm.
it's a variety of reasons for why, but
Yeah,
they embrace whoever takes that number one spot versus like trying to force a specific guy to be it.
yeah,
And it works naturally.
and I think that's when they're at their best. And that's one thing I think kind of went wrong in this game, where, like I said, Murray sat a really long time, while Jokic, yeah, he was cooking, but with Murray not out there for so long, it just felt like, all right, like you need that other scorer, the best
Yeah.
scorer on the team out there.
Especially with
So I thought,
Miami making every right play.
yeah, that I thought it was really, really strange. That was just that was one thing I noticed. What else about this game? You have anything else about it? About
Um,
Miami?
Miami, I think, is a different story from Denver. Like
Mhm.
it's impressive, obviously, but Miami's not a blueprint other teams can follow.
Um, I don't know about that. Maybe.
It's more so. I mean, there's certain teams who could follow it. Golden State could
Yeah.
follow it. I think San
No,
Antonio could follow it.
no. Well, I guess my point about both these teams, you would have to build these teams. Like no team that's currently constructed can just turn into these guys. I'm saying I think that other teams will start to say maybe we need to build our team to be more like these two teams. Because no, I completely agree with you. To be
But
Miami, you're not going to just wake up one day and say, "Hey, let's start playing like Miami." It's just not going to work. Or Denver.
but let me ask you, if you had to pick one of these teams to try to like play like or become like, let's say, build a roster like one of these teams, which
Yeah,
one would you try to go for first?
Miami.
You
I
would
would
try
just
Miami's like building an entire like roster of hard workers, of
yeah.
guys who had to earn every second of clock they've ever had.
Yeah, because one is really cheap. Because these are undrafted guys, right? That's one reason. Two, um, I don't think they're gonna lose any of these guys, and I don't think I not I'm not trying not to sound. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I don't know if any of these guys have any further aspirations than what they do for Miami. Like I don't think Martin thinks he's gonna go be the best player on another team. I think Martin thinks he's in the perfect situation. I think Michael Porter Jr. dreams every night of being on a better player on another team, of taking 25 shots a night on another team.
Yes, I mean that's true. But Miami,
It,
I think the problem is
oh,
I'm thinking more of
mhm.
broad. I don't think other teams could become what Miami is.
Well, like I said, you'd have to start it almost
Because I mean,
kind of
there's a
from
lot.
scratch.
It's a much yes. It's a much. You
Yeah,
have to start from scratch.
yeah,
You have to build like the organization, not just the roster.
yeah.
You know, you're gonna have to like. One thing about Miami is like all these guys can play. They're
They
finding
can.
all these dudes out of nowhere that can play.
But the reason why I would I would also try that is because there's no um there's no pressure on anyone on Miami any night. Like I don't feel like Bam ever has a lot of pressure on him. I feel like only the media puts pressure on Jimmy, but I don't think he ever feels it because he never acts like it. Um, I mean, Lowry has pressure because he's old, but there's none of these guys have any pressure on them any night, and that's why if I had a team, I'd want a team like Miami because of that. But if it would be tough to build it, it would be tough. I think
I
they'd both
agree.
be
I'd
tough, but
want a team like Miami. But
I
real
think it
if
would be
I'm being
harder.
realistic, Denver, I could possibly replicate that process.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
Boston is close to what Denver is. They just have no awareness for like how to succeed playing with each other and how to like involve everybody on the court at all times.
reason why I didn't say Denver too is because I think it's a miracle that it's lasted this long of them being unselfish. Like again, like I said, the Murray thing, him staying there as long as he has, I know he's had injuries and stuff, but him staying there is kind of like a second fiddle to Jokic. And for Jokic to be as unselfish as he's been with the amount of numbers he can put up, I just I don't think that if you did that with other guys, it would last as long. It would last maybe two
That's fair.
years and it would be done. Like
Again,
Anthony
it's
Davis couldn't stay through any fire in New Orleans. He was ready to go. Like
that's
with
fair.
just as good of a situation.
No, I mean
Yeah,
there's a variety of reasons for both why, most teams couldn't replicate their success.
yeah.
But I just think Miami is such a like foundational process
Hmm.
that if you don't already have a good culture, like I mean, there's teams who even have pieces of what Miami does well. Like I think
Hmm.
Charlotte drafts good wings. For what?
They do.
For
They
what? Like,
drafted. I mean, they picked up Caleb Martin. Even though they didn't
right.
draft him, but they picked him up first.
But like Charlotte has good track record of mid first round wings, no direction. Detroit has drafted good players, no direction. Cleveland for years had no direction. Like Miami
Still
with
don't.
whoever they picked up, whoever they drafted, whoever they brought in, there was purpose.
Well, I guess so. With your question, it depends what position I am. If I'm the coach, then yeah, probably I'd rather coach, like try to coach a Denver team.
Yeah.
But if I'm the GM, I'd rather try to do the Miami thing because it seems like a lot easier to find guys like that than it is to find. I mean, even if
It
you don't
seems
find
like
them
it, but
how they are, even if you don't find them how they are, a lot of these guys, like you said, they're just hungry guys, and a lot of teams they don't play the hungry guys like this. You know, they're not as much.
yes.
I mean, Struess got cut from Boston, and look at the guys who played for Boston. None of them
Yeah.
looked hungry in this last series.
You know what else is weird? And like this may be a shot at the East, but Miami looks like they practice more than everybody in the East.
Yeah, they do.
Like I'd give the West a little more. Like I think Denver looks like they practice. I think the Clippers look like they practice.
Lakers
Even the
definitely practice.
Lakers, like a lot of the teams, Golden State, obviously.
Yeah,
Sacramento's a team. Well, maybe not. Maybe not Sacramento. I might have gone too far. But
they
with
practice.
Miami, like there's so much more in tune with how they could adjust to things.
Yeah.
Because I like we that was kind of our biggest issue with every other Eastern team where something goes wrong and you're just sitting there watching it go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Or something, for you was going well and now isn't, and you're just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one thing I love about Miami. Game to game, they adjust. Different guys get shots. The guys that struggled the game before, there's more of an effort to get them good shots. I mean,
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown was taking horrible shots for 7 games, and I never saw an adjustment.
Yeah, I mean it this goes hand in hand, but like I said, I didn't think Boston watched any film. I don't believe it. That's the
Thank
same thing
you.
as saying they don't practice. I just don't know how you can make the same mistakes over and over again if you watch the mistakes happen.
I don't think
And
Philly watched film against Boston.
they didn't. They couldn't have. They
So
couldn't have.
again, it's like, and hypothetically, yes, Spolster's a way better coach than these guys,
Hmm.
but it shouldn't be. The gap shouldn't look this wide.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know if I would even say way better. I think the team plays way better, but I mean, it's just hard to even have that big of a gap coaching because so much of it comes from the team,
I mean, they're
which
again,
is
their
much
willingness
much
to
less
play
talented team.
zone. I mean, they could play zone. It's
Discipline.
nobody's ever like, I don't know. Maybe this is more Jimmy Butler than we thought, but it's okay for anybody to lead them in shot attempts, which we normally
Hmm.
criticize them for. But like with their formula working the way it is, it's such a perfect mix.
And you just see a team full of winners on that team. I mean, even though they don't win all the time, they don't, they haven't won a championship yet. But you see all those guys out there really only care about winning the game. And I see that so few and far between throughout the league, especially like with a whole team of it. I mean, even when they're getting blown out, it looks like guys who just really wanted to come in and make an impact on the game.
Yes.
And that's something you don't see, or you'd see it and the players aren't used enough. Like I mentioned, this is like I'm not saying Chetty Osman is as good as these guys, but I told you early in the season I only like him because he comes out there and looks like he's trying to win all the time. He can play
Yes.
like garbage, but I know he's actually trying to win. And I can't say that for anyone else on the Cleveland bench. I just can't. Um, I'm trying to think throughout the league. I mean, even Austin Reeves. I think that's one reason he even has a job in the league. When he's out there, he looks like he's trying to win every single game, no matter how
Trying
bad
to
he's
prove
getting.
himself every play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can name two players on every team like that, but Miami, you can't name anyone on Miami that isn't like that. So that's a big part of the culture you mentioned. I mean, seriously, they go out there and they do whatever they got to do all the time.
I mean,
And
this
maybe
team,
it is an
honestly,
undrafted thing or what.
I don't know, man. It's I mean, it's got to be Pat Riley. A lot of it has to be Pat Riley, but the focus this organization has had, just this entire, like, as a whole, from D Wade getting there to now. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been like one of the premier competitive teams in the league.
Since they fired Van Gundy, they've been flawless pretty much ever since
Flawless.
then. Yeah,
I mean,
I think
their
that was oh
lottery
05.
teams are fun to watch. Their good teams are fun to watch. They're like purgatory average teams with D Wade and with Bosch and D Wade later on were fun
Yeah.
to watch, and they've always been competitive.
Yeah, even all the little experiments they have, Dragic getting a lot of minutes. They have Michael Beasley as like a main piece for a little while. Amari, like all those little experiments they had were all really fun to
Yeah, I
watch.
like Luol Deng there for a little bit, super little bit.
Yeah, I did too.
I will say, Miami's a top tier culture. Couldn't save Michael Beasley, unfortunately.
No, couldn't at all. Couldn't use them. Could not save them. Okay, so split. It's split at home in Denver. What do you think is going to happen in Miami?
Man, the way the role players have played, like, it's really hard to predict
Hmm.
uh definitively where this series goes.
Hmm.
But I've really loved what I've seen from Gabe Vincent.
Yeah.
And like, I can't imagine Denver makes him a focal point, or makes it a focal point to contain him.
Hmm.
So if he continues to play at a high level, Miami's definitely winning one of these next two games.
Yeah, I mean it. And at home, I would definitely expect one. I think we're gonna have one game that is super high scoring, very little defensive impact. I mean, I think they'll be playing good defense, but I think it won't matter because it'll be like Murray is gonna have he's due for an explosion. It's coming. It's definitely coming. And I think it may be the Murray versus Miami show where he has like 45 in Miami, like everyone on Miami's hot and they score like a 45-point quarter, something ridiculous. I feel like something ridiculous like that is going to happen in one of these games.
What's wild is
Um,
Jimmy could do the same. Like with Jimmy, it's much less likely,
mhm.
but with Jimmy could just explode out of nowhere.
It's funny because when Jimmy does it, they defensively Miami locks in and like stops the other team from scoring while Jimmy does that. Right? I think that's one thing that is cool about when Jimmy's having a good game. Miami's defense gets way better when Jimmy's playing good. It's like I don't know how he does it. When he's hot, the defense gets better. On Murray's side, Miami can keep scoring, and Murray just scores more. Like he'll trade threes for twos. Miami can keep coming down and scoring, cool, but Murray's gonna take 30 footers and just outscore the other team just with more points or accumulation of points. Maybe a
It's
stop
almost
here and there,
it's almost
transition
better
move.
for just Murray to be hot because if anybody else is hot, he like one ups any other Heat on the court,
He does, yeah,
even if it's on his
he
own
does.
team.
He does, and I mean that's why I think you kind of have to. He has to lead them in shots in a win. If he doesn't lead you in shots, to your point, it's like he either he's either gonna him being out there is either gonna slow down the other person or he's gonna take tougher shots that he probably shouldn't doesn't need to take in the moment, or they kind of get out of rhythm if two people are hot. Unless it's
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. like catch and shoot hot. But if someone else is like really off the dribble hot, they both get out of rhythm with Murray out there because Murray needs to be fed. He has to. Um, it's gonna be interesting.
It's
So
interesting.
you,
Do you
you
do you
got
think Harrow comes back?
no, I don't. I don't think so. I think he could, but I don't think that he'll be ready to compete at this level. Um,
Missed
if he
he got
does, it may
hurt
be a little
the
short spurt.
first game, right? The first Milwaukee game.
Yeah. Yep. On that dive, the loose ball.
And it's weird because nobody really took Miami seriously at that point, and they're now the best team of the conference. So
It should tell people who felt that way a lot about Hero. So
yeah, yeah, his impact on their success, like I hope people see now it wasn't that important.
yeah, telling you, I
But
mean, the Kevin Martin comparison is there. Kevin Martin could have 50 and team would still lose by 30.
I can
It's
make a case they would have lost to Boston if he was playing,
possible. Yeah. Well,
especially
it would
that
have been bad
last
shots on
game.
both sides.
Right. But anyway, that's
And
obviously
no
all
defense.
hypothetical. I'm sticking with
Yeah.
my pick. I don't know about you. I still think Miami in 7.
I I'm leaning more towards that. But I'm gonna stick with Denver in 6, but I am leaning more towards Miami in 7. So
Okay, that game too, man. Guys played well for Miami, dude, and they could do it again. Like it wasn't a fluke.
they could. They could. And I don't want the Jokic hate or like, I don't want to sound like I'm dogging Jokic or diminishing him in any way, but the Nuggets play a little bit better when he's not like a scoring machine against teams like Miami. There's some teams that Jokic could get 50, 15, and 10 and Denver's unstoppable. But Miami is not the team that Jokic needs to get 40 points a game against. It doesn't help them because they need to use the accumulation of the depth because Miami's going to use the depth. No one on
Yeah.
Miami is going to try to get 40. It's not going to happen unless someone's really on fire. But they're not going to go out looking for 40. Um, they're going to have shots coming from all over the place, and Jokic is just going to have the ball too long. And so if they do that again, it's not going to be good. I don't think. I think any game Jokic gets 40 in this series, they lose. So
Yeah.
and that's no disrespect to him. It's just not how. It just isn't the right team to do that against. I think he can do that, but not against Miami. Um,
It's weird,
So,
man. It's always like a weird balance to me,
mhm,
where it could lean one way or the other very easily, like depending on
mhm,
the circumstance. Because there are
yeah,
times when like certain teams just can't guard Jokic so poorly, or like
mhm,
they're so bad at it that he
yeah,
kind of has to attack.
yeah,
But to your point, against the good teams, like against Miami, they need the balance, they need the depth to be involved.
yeah, yeah. Those teams that he does that against are the teams that don't have depth. Like with
Clippers.
Phoenix, they only play 6
Oh
good
yeah.
players on
Oh
Phoenix.
yeah.
And no disrespect to the other guys, they only go 6 deep. So Jokic can dominate those 6 guys, but once you get to Miami and it's 10, 11 deep, you got Highsmith and Love out there, and you got all these guys that are contributing. You can't play one against 11. You could
No.
play one against 6, one against 5, but not one against 10 or 11. It's
You might
just
be able to play two if it's Jokic and Murray, but it can't be one.
right. You can't have Murray sitting out for 8 straight minutes in crunch time thinking like we're going to do fine.
Yeah.
That was like the most bizarre move of the series so far. But um, I do think they'll split in Miami as well, and then for me, I think Denver wins the next 2 games. I think if it goes 7, I don't see Denver winning that game 7. I just don't. Even in Denver, I don't see it. So I'm
It
with you
was,
there. If it
yeah.
goes to game 7,
I had that same mindset with Boston where I was like, okay, it's in 7, but
hmm
my lack of faith in Boston is so strong. Like I know they're losing this. With
hmm
Denver, it's not. With Boston, it was more like I know their flaws. With Denver, like I just don't think they're built for it like Miami is.
they're not built for it, and I think they make a mistake. Um, no, like I think Malone makes a mistake if they do that. I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but for some reason I feel like the back against the wall desperation. I think Malone makes. I think he loses that one for them. To be honest, uh, I think Spo will just outcoach Malone in a game 7
Yeah.
easily.
I want Denver to go down 2-1 because I really want to see what they're made of at that point, but
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
we will see. Exciting stuff, man. This is a good finals. It already is a really, really good finals. To be 2 teams that I don't think many, not crazy fan bases to be there, at least not historic fan bases to be there. It is really cool, and we will see what happens. You
This would
got
be
anything
Denver's
else?
first, right? This would be Denver's first title for I don't know. I
Yeah,
have
I
no
think
clue about other sports, but as far as I know, the Denver basketball team has never won a title.
I think since the merger, I think they want to.
That's
I
yeah.
want to say
They
they
might have
might have
won
won
it
an ABA.
before.
Yeah, ABA one maybe.
I mean, that's way the fuck back.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
last most of the league's like individual life cycle, they got nothing.
yeah, yeah. Since the merger, they have nothing. We're just like 80, 79, something like that.
Yeah, I saw they
Yeah.
showed there was a couple other teams in that list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Hopefully, hopefully those teams, get out of that within the next 20 years.
I would like to see Miami get out of D Wade's shadow with a win.
I like it.
Because
I like it. Yeah.
D Wade has 3 or 4. 3?
Yeah.
One without LeBron, 2 with LeBron.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to see them get out of his shadow.
I mean,
Um,
Spo becomes. I mean, at that point, I mean, he probably is their greatest coach ever. But
oh yeah. I mean they were only a team for like 10 years before Wade. Not even, I don't think.
right,
So
it's crazy because Spo is like young as hell too.
yeah,
Because Spo
yeah.
can really stick around for so long.
Yeah. I mean, Spo got there when LeBron got there, right? That was his
No, he
first or
was
second year.
there.
I mean, as head coach.
I want to say it was like his third year.
Third, okay. Yeah. I know it was early,
Because I
but
remember I was mad at him because he didn't double Paul Pierce in that game 3 and let I believe Darrell Wright, if my memory is correct, get cooked on the ISO. By the way, where do you think Paul Pierce took the shot?
where the
The right
elbow.
fucking elbow. Where the
Yeah,
fuck else would Paul Pierce look to shoot a game winner?
yeah. If he gets that elbow, you can count it every
You
single
just
time.
go, yeah, just give it up. But anyway, but he
Yeah,
was there for a couple years, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. '08 was his first year, so and they
Was that
had
D
Riley
Wade's
and Van
shoulder
Gundy
injury, I
before that.
think?
Hmm?
Was that D Wade's? No, D Wade's shoulder injury was 07. And then
I think
08, they
so.
had that gross series with Atlanta that was
Yeah, I think
a
so. Yeah.
blowout both ways, every game.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Cool. You got anything else to talk about today?
We'll be
When
back.
is it?
We'll be back after the two Miami games, and then from there we'll probably go game by game.
Yeah. If yeah, yeah, it will go past that. But yeah.
Yeah.
When is the draft? Oh, June 22nd, coming up quick. I saw some of the
Interesting.
combine and some of the workouts. I don't really have much to say about it, but the workouts have been pretty interesting.
I saw the Zach Edey decided to go back.
A lot of guys went and decided to go back because of the um overtime elite guys that are coming in that are like top 10 locks. So the guys who would be top 10 any other year are all going back. So I think that's pretty interesting. The amount of guys going back is the most I've ever seen. Like in my
It is
lifetime of
it is a
watching
lot, yeah.
draft. Yeah, I've seen at least eight, and at least eight like really good players. So
Yeah.
because the top five, everyone knows who the top five is going to be already. It's it's Wimby, it's Scoot, it's Brandon Miller, it's the two Thompson twins, I think. Uh, Eamon Thompson and Asur Thompson, I think,
Yeah.
and that's the top five. So everyone else is battling for 5 to 10. You know, the money's not after that. You don't really get a lot of money. So I
Hopefully
mean,
the
as much money.
Wizards get a nice what is they, 7, 8, something like that.
You should trade that pick, man. They haven't made a good draft pick in a long time.
They haven't made a good organization decision in a long time. But let's
When's been
let's
the
end the episode on that note.
is Beal the last good draft pick they had?
I think Kelly Oubre came after. Does he count?
Oh, y'all did draft Kelly Oubre, yeah.
Let him
I
fucking
mean,
walk.
yeah, I was gonna say, is it good if you guys trade him before his rookie contract was even up?
Don't forget, we drafted Otto Porter third.
Yeah. At the time, that was a good pick. At the time. And he went to Georgetown, so he was like,
That's
stayed
fucking
home kind of thing.
center. He was trash, bro. I did not think it was a
That was a
good
solid
pick
pick
at
at
the
the time.
time.
I'm not hating on that one. But
Yeah, it's
the
not the
other ones
only
were
one.
bad.
There's a lot of mistakes
Just at
there.
the time. Just at the time. That's all.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't have anything else. You good?
No, that's it.
All right. Thanks for listening as always. Please subscribe, follow us, all that good stuff. We'll be back